Back out here, and we're messing with the red Stang. I don't really know. Ooh, maybe we could call it Blood Stang. Ah. Gosh, I'm so good with these weird names. I just come up with them just kind of on the fly. That's what we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it the Blood Stain. Oh, that makes me laugh. Oh goodness. Anyways, my brother came in town and we did some work on the Mustang, and you know dang, it's dirty. You know, I already fabricated all the hot side stuff. I videoed all that, downpipe, everything. Now I'm getting ready to start working on getting the intercooler mounted. But I got to mount the intercooler in a way to where it'll fit behind the drag bumper and or a stock bumper, because I never know what he's going to put on this thing. So I've got to try and make it to where it'll fit behind either one of them. That way, depending on which one he decides on, we don't have to change anything. Also, but like I was saying, he came into town, we worked on it a little bit. Let me pull this off here. And by worked on it, I mean we just kind of cleared out some of the old wiring and stuff on this car. It had a nitrous small block Ford in it, so we had to dissect a bunch of the wiring from the arc panel and stuff that's above your head, and then it goes down to the panel down here. I did mount the Holley Terminator X. I started laying out the wiring for it. We'll have to run some wires over here for positive and grounds for that. I've got to make a shifter mount as well. We did get the old dash out, and the car came with a fiberglass dash. We got that test fitted and got the holes and everything trimmed up for the cage, so that's all ready to go back in. We cleaned up a bunch of wiring that was on the firewall, the line lock and stuff. All that wiring was out here. I tucked all that back and ran it down the inside of the dash bar. You can't see it, but it's back there. So all the wiring's for that's back there. And then wiring for the lights, I tucked back and then kicked out inside the fender and ran it out. So now it's all going to be inside the fender, so you won't see any of that. So the only wiring you should see is the Holley wiring, which I already drilled the hole and started laying the harness out. Obviously it's not staying in there because we've got to paint and stuff, and the fabrication and stuff's not done yet, but I just kind of wanted to lay it out and kind of get an idea how it was going to get ran. And then I also went ahead and made a couple extra fender mounts for both sides, because all it had was the one in the back corner. So I made a couple tabs and I just MIG'd those on with our new Hobart 140 MIG that we bought. But yeah, I got those MIG'd on there, just a couple little L brackets, and then got some chromoly tubing, and then some angle iron there, or not angle iron, but like angle steel. I got to trim those brackets up a little bit. I made them kind of long, that way we could test fit the fenders with the header panel and make sure it was wide enough, and then got it all bolted down. So now it's all sturdy. We got mounts on both sides. So anyways, the next thing I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and tackle trying to hang this intercooler and get it ready. I think I'm actually going to flip it the other way, and I'm going to shorten up this pipe because all this was from the old turbo kit. But now we're going to do it a little differently, so I may try and tuck it up underneath the header panel. But mainly I'm going to figure out the height first, and then I'll determine whether it's going to be the other way, if the inlet and outlets are down low and or up top. So anyways, I'm gonna get this bumper test fit, make sure it clears where it's at, and then I'm gonna try and get an idea how to mount it, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I don't have any tubing benders or anything fancy like that, so I'm gonna try and make this as simple as possible. Hopefully it'll have some structure to it, but I've got some of this chromoly, little thin chromoly tubing. It's the stuff I made the fender brackets out of. I'm going to use it. I've got a piece laid across the intercooler, and I'm just going to basically take this and just weld a little bracket across it. And I'll probably put a gusset like in between it, and then there'll actually be a lower bracket that I'm gonna build too, but I'm gonna get the upper one made first, and it'll make making the lower one a lot easier. But I'm gonna go ahead and tack this in place with the MIG. I am gonna have to cut off a little section here, just extra on that bracket there. But I'll get this all tacked up in here, and then we'll have a upper bracket semi-made, at least enough to hold the intercooler in place.
It's a 16 buff in the dark. It's a 16 buff in the dark.
All right, so we got those upper mounts, although they're not the prettiest. We got those on there. I went ahead and bolted the header panel on this thing. I've got the intake off mainly because I'm getting ready to bolt the intake on, and I got to clean all this red sticky crap off here. This is for like this tape that we put on our new engines, so nothing falls down in the intake ports and stuff. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It's got really sticky stuff on the backside, so I got to clean that off before I can bolt the intake down. I had to change out the valley cover because it had a vent on it, and I made this little bracket for my South Bay fuel rail, and it's just the factory bracket that comes with the regulator on a piece of flat stock, and just it sits right above the water pump, and then you'll just run your Dash 8 fuel lines off. It just makes it really easy, especially with the tall intakes. It's kind of like how I did the boost knuckle here. Did something really similar with it. So you can see it there, but that's how that one is, and that's how we're gonna do my brother's Mustang. So I'm gonna get that cleaned off. Once I get that cleaned off, I pretty much can bolt the intake down for the final time. I don't plan on pulling the motor back out of this car at any point anytime soon, so it should be good to leave in there. And then we'll just start moving forward, because I am going to paint all the tubes and stuff. Once I get everything fabbed up and everything welded onto the front stub, then I'll paint all that. But I'm not going to pull the motor out of it for that. I'll just unbolt like the turbo kit and stuff, and then we'll just paint all that in with some rattle can paint because a race car. But for now, like I said, I'm going to get that cleaned off, get the intake bolted on it, and we're going to start working on remaking this charge pipe, because the pipe that I had for it was for the Fox body chassis, not the SN95 chassis, which is all different, which is why I had to redo the downpipe and all that stuff too. But yeah, so I'm working on that. And then a couple other little things. We're going to make a lower intercooler bracket. Not real sure how I'm going to do that yet. I got some miscellaneous pieces and stuff. I think I'm going to try and just, make something that's functional. I'm not a professional fabricator. I'm more or less good enough to make stuff function. I'm a functionator. That's what I'm a functionator. I'm not a fabricator. I'm a functionator. I'm gonna coin that. But yeah, so I'm gonna make some lower brackets for the intercooler to keep it from flopping. I will end up putting some gussets on here, mainly because this is like 6 or 8 inches long, and it would look better, and it would look more sturdy, and it'll be more sturdy for that matter as well. And then I drilled a hole to run the Holley harness through for the Terminator X, and I was gonna buy a Seals It grommet for that, but I was looking through my junk drawer, and I've got one of these old grommets from a Motion Raceworks Mustang Fox body like firewall plate for their steering column, and I think it's gonna fit over this hole, so I'm just gonna multi-purpose that thing, so that'll look good. So I'm super pumped about that. I love finding things that are meant for one thing but using them for another. But anyways, like I said, I'm gonna get this all cleaned up, get the intake bolted on it, and we'll start moving forward with this. All right, so it's late. I got a late start. It's probably like 11:30 at night. I'm just getting started in the garage. I forgot to fire up the camera. But I'm out here messing with this. I came up with a name for this. I'm gonna call it the Blood Stang. Chew on that for a minute. But I've already got the nice little Harbor Freight chop saw over there, or bandsaw cutting stuff. All this turbo kit was fabbed up for a Fox body shell with a different front stub on it. So everything's entirely different, and I'm too cheap, my brother's too cheap to buy all new pieces. So I've already got the cold side of the intercooler piping pretty much all done. I'm putting an MRE tag on it, and I gotta put an IAT sensor bung on it, and I gotta put a bead roll on one end of it. Aside from that, that side of the piping's already done. Now I'm trying to chop suey up this side over here and make the old pipe work with how the intercooler and stuff's routed on this car. But anyways, I'm gonna get this chopped up so you'll be able to hear me talk here in a minute, and then I'll lay it all out, and then we'll start welding that up, and we'll move on to the next piece.
It's a 16 buff in the dark. It's a 16 buff in the dark. It's a 16.
And I got, I mean, this isn't pretty by any means. I ran out of 308 stainless, so I'm using ER70 on some of this stuff, but built a little bracket to hold the wastegate dump and the 4-inch downpipe kind of together. So I just, weld a little flange on here, a little flange on here, and then I'll drill a hole there. I'll either put a riv nut in it, or I may just weld a nut on the back side of it, and then you can just put a little bolt in it, and that'll help keep them from like rattling, and or like once they get hot, since they're on like V-band flanges, sometimes you'll get them and they'll start to move and rotate if they're hanging funny, especially when you got like a wastegate hanging down like that. Sometimes they'll rotate whenever they get hot. I don't know why that just started back up, because I hit pause as random. Got a flex section in here. I still got to, basically once I get that done, then I should be done with the downpipe and the wastegate dump. The only other exhaust side stuff I got to do is I got to do the crossover pipe from this manifold to this manifold. And then the hot side's done. Intercooler piping is pretty much all redone now. I had to cut all this up from the previous setup from the previous car, and the same thing here. I didn't want to buy a bunch of more material to redo it all. For trying to be cost effective, it wasn't. So I just cut it up. So some of these spots you'll see, like this one's got a bead roll on it, because this was actually down here and stuff. Pretty much all of it's done. I think I still got to put a bead roll on one of these ends. I don't remember which end it is. And then this used to be up by the throttle body, but now with how I'm going to do the radiator and stuff, that's not going to work. So that's going to be there. Why is this doing this? Pause. Try it again. I got to add some reinforcements to my upper, not so awesome intercooler bracket. I'm going to add like a couple gussets in the corners here, and then I'm going to add a gusset down here. And that will probably double as, you know, part of how I'm going to mount the radiator. But everything's pretty much coming together. I got a bunch of fittings, like the feed fitting here. I got the dash 10 fitting on the bottom there. I got to pull the water pump and the front cover off so I can weld a bung in that, because we got the Summit balancer for it. This is same one I use on the boost knuckle. Comes with the alternator pulley because it's an underdrive deal. But I use this one because it's smaller, and I can put a bung for the oil drain like right here, and it doesn't get in the way of the balancer. And that's how I've got it on the boost knuckle too. Got a new starter for it, got fuel pressure sensor, oil pressure sensor. The wiring harness is pretty much ran for the most part. Then more or less it's just laying out some plumbing for some fuel lines and all that stuff. And then he's gonna come get the car, and they're gonna do the tranny cooler lines, transmission, drive shaft, and pretty much the back half of the fuel system. So I'm gonna plumb everything up to the Y block, and then pretty much all they gotta do is run a straight dash 10 back to the pump, and however they want to plumb it into the fuel cell. But we're nearing completion on this setup. Can't wait to hear it. Should be pretty rowdy.